The IRAS Lodgement report can be located via the Reports IRAS Lodgement page and allows you to generate, download, edit, and publish annual income details for your employees. Employee income information must be reported to the Inland Revenue Authority of Singapore, or IRAS, by the 1st of March each year for the previous year. Employers with 4 or more employees must submit this information electronically via the Auto Inclusion Scheme, or AIS. Employers with less than 5 employees are currently able to provide their employees with a paper version of the forms. If paper versions are provided, the employees are required to log into their tax portal and report the income information to the IRAS. In this video, we will look at how to enable electronic lodgement, how to generate and download the reports, as well as how to lodge an amendment if need be. To lodge electronically via the Auto Inclusion Scheme, businesses must be registered and the appropriate digital services must be enabled within CourtPass. Any authorised users must be configured correctly for the submission to be successful. To configure your settings, firstly go to Payroll Settings. Then click on Statutory Report Settings. And then click into the IRAS Settings tab. Here you can select whether you will be lodging the income data electronically or manually. If you select the electronic option, you will not be able to change this selection once data has been lodged. Select if you are a tax agent transacting on behalf of your business client by checking or leaving this tick box unchecked. Then click Save. To run the report, select Reports and then choose IRAS Lodgement. You can filter the report via the following ways. The basis period. This will only include years for which there is existing data. Employing entity. This field will contain all employing entities in the business if there are any. You are able to select a specific entity if required. Please note to generate forms, publish forms, or lodge data, an employing entity must be selected where they are set up. You can also filter by employee. If you want to generate the report for all employees, you can leave this field blank. Alternatively, enter an individual employee's name to generate the report on an individual basis. Employee default location. You can choose to filter the report by the default location. This refers to the location listed on the employee file in the Pay Run Defaults page. You can then filter by status, for example, unpublished, published, lodged, or amendment required. This is optional. If you leave it blank, the report will display the current data for the year based on pay period end date. Otherwise, it uses the snapshot data that was stored at the time the forms were published or lodged. Once you have set the above filters, click Run Report. If there have been changes to the data since publishing forms or lodging, the employee row will show in red indicating action needs to be taken. Where the forms had previously been published or lodged, you will need to regenerate and publish at an employee level or lodge an amendment to refresh the data and submit any differences. Once you have regenerated or lodged the amendment, rerun the report to see the updated data on screen. The text will no longer display in red. After you run the report, there are a number of page-level actions that you can take. These include Publish. This will make the forms available to the selected employees within their employee portal and work zone. Publish forms and send notifications. This will make the forms available to the selected employees within their employee portal and work zone and also send a notification to the employee to let them know that it is available. You can check each employee's notification settings by going to their employee file, Pay Run Defaults page, or running an employee details report and filter it for notifications. Unpublished forms. This will remove the forms from the employee portal and work zone for the selected employees. Send notifications. This action will send an email notification to all employees with a published IRAS form. Employees who have already been sent a notification will not be included. If you need to resend the notification to an employee who has already been sent the notification, you can do so via the Actions button that appears next to their record in the list. Lodge. This will submit data electronically to the IRAS for the selected employees. Please note, once processed, any changes you make to your employees' data will need to be re-lodged as an amendment. If you have not enabled electronic submission, this option will not be available. Generate forms. Generate and download the forms for the selected employees. If forms have already been published, the data displayed will be the data stored at the time of publishing. To refresh the data, the form will need to be regenerated at the employee level. Please note that generating these forms will not submit the data automatically to the IRAS. Employers are not required to submit these hard copy forms, but they must be provided to the employees by the 1st of March each year. The employees are responsible for reporting the earnings data into their tax portal if the employer is not registered for AIS. This option will not be available if you have enabled electronic submission. The previously mentioned actions will apply to all employees who are selected at the time. The actions at the individual employee level may be slightly different based upon the actions that have already been completed. For example, publish. This will make the forms available to the employee. The publish option will only be available if the forms have previously been generated or lodged. Unpublish. The unpublish option will display once a form has been published. Lodge amendment. The lodge amendment option will display at the employee level once the form has been lodged. This only applies if the electronic submission has been enabled. Amendments can only be completed for a single employee at a time. We'll discuss how to lodge an amendment later on in this video. The resend notification option will display once a notification has been sent. The regenerate option will display once a form has been published. Regenerate will unpublish the form and refresh the data from what was used at the time of generation or publishing. This only applies if electronic submission has not been enabled. Edit. This option only shows for employees who have not been paid the following pay categories during the basis period: compensation for loss of office, retirement benefits up to the 31st of December 1992, and retirement benefits amount accrued from 1993. Once you click on Actions and Edit for a specific employee, a side panel will show. With this option, you are able to edit the following. The editable fields for compensation for loss of office include approval obtained from IRAS, date of approval, reason for payment, length of service within the company or group, and basis for arriving at the payment. The editable fields for retirement benefits include the name of fund. There are two options available for downloading the reports. The report can be exported to Excel or downloaded in bulk if required by clicking the download button. The file will download to your computer. Please note the download PDF button only works for records which have not been submitted via IRAS electronic submissions for the tax year. The download button exists for admins to check the records or record keep before they submit their original electronic records to IRAS. If you wish to re-download the PDF, you can return to the employee profile to download them. The following data is included in the report: the employee identity number, employee name, their employing entity. If an employee was linked to multiple employing entities during the year, there will be multiple records displayed in the report. Salary. Salary is the sum of earnings associated with the gross salary, fees, leave pay, wages, and overtime payment classifications for the year, with the exception of lump sum payments, retirement benefits, and compensation for loss of office earnings. This includes earnings added into opening balances and/or pay runs. Bonus is the sum of all earnings associated with the bonus payment classification for the year. Director's fees is the sum of all earnings associated with the director's fees payment classification. Allowances is the sum of earnings associated with the allowance, transport, allowance other, and allowance entertainment payment classifications for the year. Gross commissions is the sum of all earnings associated with the commissions payment classification. And pension is the sum of all earnings associated with the pension payment classifications for the year. You'll also see gratuity, notice pay, ex gratia payments, and others. Lump sum payment is the sum of all earnings associated with the termination payment categories for the year, with the exception of retirement benefits and compensation for loss of earnings as they are reported separately. Excess employer contribution is the sum of voluntary employer CPF and MediSave contributions for the year. If there are values in this column, the IR8S form will be produced for the employee. Gains from share plans is the sum of total gains associated with the employee share plans for the year. Negative earning values will not be included. If there are values in this column, the Appendix 8B form will be produced for the employee. The gains from share plans are always associated with the current employing entity for the employee, as at the generation date. Value of benefits in kind is the sum of all benefits in kind values added for the year, with the exception of the following: place of residence, hotel accommodation. Please note, the system completes these calculations using the values provided in the benefits in kind page. To see examples and breakdown of the formula, please refer to the detailed article. If there is a value in the value of benefits in kind column, the Appendix 8A form will be produced for the employee. The benefits in kind values are always associated with the current employing entity for the employee, as at the generation date. You will also see the totals for deductions, compensation for loss of office, retirement benefits up to the 31st of December 1992, retirement benefits from 1993, contributions outside Singapore without tax concession, contributions outside Singapore with tax concession, remission values, and exempt income. The status. The status column shows the status of the employee data for the selected basis period. For electronic submission businesses, the submission number is displayed when the cursor is hovered over the status. This is optional. Options are unpublished. Forms may have been generated but have not been published and made available to the employee. Published. Forms have been generated or lodged and published. Published forms are available to the employee through the self-service portal. Lodged. Data has been lodged electronically to the IRAS. Forms have not been published to the employee. Or amendment required. To lodge the report electronically, navigate to Reports, then select IRAS Lodgement. Filter the report to the applicable basis period and/or employees. Then select Run Report. Select Actions and choose Lodge. At this point, the data is sent to IRAS to validate the files but is not yet lodged. If there are errors or warnings, they are displayed. Errors must be corrected before continuing with the lodgement, however, warnings can be accepted. If there are no errors or warnings have been accepted, the system makes a request to CourtPass, where you will be redirected to the SingPass login page. Log into CourtPass with your SingPass login details or the SingPass app. Once logged into CourtPass, give KeyPay permission to transact on your behalf to submit the income information. Once Allow has been selected, you'll be redirected back to the IRAS lodgement screen for confirmation the submission has been successful. The IRAS submission number and lodgement details are displayed for your records. There are two ways to view required amendments. If running a report with no status filter, the submissions will either be black or red. A black one needs no action. If a name in red has already been lodged to the IRAS, it needs a review or amendment. Alternatively, you can choose to view a report that exclusively shows your entries that require amendments by selecting Amendment Required from the Status drop-down menu. Then navigate to a red entry, click Actions, and select Lodge Amendment. The amendment screen will appear with the amendment income to be submitted to the IRAS. Click Confirm. Review any errors and accept warnings that may appear. You will then be redirected to the CourtPass website, where you will need to log in using your SingPass login credentials or the app. Once the report has been successfully lodged, you will see the submission reference number listed. The following forms are produced as part of the IRAS lodgement publishing process where applicable. The IR8A contains compensation data for the basis period. Appendix 8A contains benefit in kind or other income data for the basis period. Appendix 8B contains employee share plan data for the basis period. And the IR8S contains voluntary employer CPF contributions data for the basis period. More information can be found on the IRAS website in relation to these forms. Once the forms have been published in the IRAS lodgement screen, They'll be available to employees within their IRAS forms page in the employee file.